So, good morning, everyone. Uh, Again, as always, a great pleasure to be with you today. I wanted to talk this morning and follow up to something that we discussed last week. As we were talking last week, Madeline, I hope you don't mind, you really struck a chord with me when you talked about how, as we're setting goals for growth in our business, that it's a little bit like kissing, where we want to be kissed back. And I talked about this in the newsletter. I hope everyone online today watching the recording is signed up to the newsletter. I did expand on this principle over the weekend. But I want to talk about or expand on this point because we need to see that feedback coming to us in our businesses in order to give us confidence, hope, belief, conviction that we can do great things, which will motivate us, of course, to move forward. Everything we do is the fruit of what we think, feel, and believe. So if my beliefs are compromised, if I'm looking in the wrong place for feedback, then it's going to be very, very important for us to recognize how we can change that, how we can get to a place where my beliefs are centered on the right things. If I've got limiting beliefs, how do I eliminate them? How do I look in the right place? That's what I want to talk about today. Heather's just asked a quick question. Can someone share the link for the sign-up form for the newsletter? I will do that once someone starts talking, Heather, so I can quickly jump on and I'll paste it in there to make sure that everyone gets the chance to do that. So I want to start by sharing a story from an artist called James Whistler, who once painted a small spray of roses. It was a little tiny painting. It wasn't a magnificent, huge thing. It was just a little tiny painting of a spray of roses. But he absolutely fell in love with this piece of work. He considered it one of his finest masterpieces. And as a consequence, not as a consequence of his own artistry, not of his own interpretation, but of his own artistry, as a consequence of this being just so magnificent, what happened was, unfortunately, many artists they fell in love with it. They were like, this is just incredible. It was the envy of all the other artists that saw it. And it was the despair of all of the collectors because they desperately wanted to purchase that piece of art. But Whistler refused repeatedly, consistently, refused to sell it. And when asked why, he said, this is what he said. I want to read out what he says here. He says, whenever I feel that my hand has lost its cunning, whenever I doubt my ability, I look at this little picture of the spray of roses and say to myself, Whistler, you painted that. Your hand drew it. Your imagination conceived the colors. Your skill put the roses on the canvas. Then he said, I know that what I've done before, I can do again. Then he gave us a great philosophy, I think, for success. He said, hang on the walls of your mind the memory of your successes. Take counsel from your strength, not your weakness. Think of the good jobs you have done. Think of the times when you rose above your average level of performance and carried out an idea or a dream or a desire for which you had deeply longed. Hang these pictures on the walls of your mind and look at them as you travel the roadway of life. I really value that principle. And I think in order for us to get kissed back in our business, to carry on that metaphor that was so wonderfully given us last week, in order for us to truly get kissed back, we need to know where to look in order to see the kisses. And one of the ways that we can do that is not just in the immediate results, but also in the times where we've had results before, so that we can have the confidence, if we are at a patch where we are struggling, where we can say, I've done it before, so I can get it done again. What I would like each of us to do today is to have a little bit of a sharing moment. And this is, like I said before I hit record, this might be slightly uncomfortable because it's going to feel like maybe I'm asking you to brag a little on yourself. And we don't like to do that, do we? We like to maybe brag on someone else. But what I want each of us to feel to do today is take a moment to think about what are some things that you've done in NECAM that worked out really good. Maybe you found a new business partner and got them going and got a great result. Maybe you've had some great experience with some customers. Maybe you've overcome some of your own struggles and overcome some of your own fears. Maybe your character or your business or your mind or your heart has been strengthened in some way as a result of what you've been doing in NECAM, and you've become a different person as a result. There are many different ways that our business can kiss us back. Financially is an important one. It is a business after all. But there are lots of other ways as well, isn't there, where we can become something different as a consequence of our business. In what ways have you become? In what ways have you changed? In what ways has your business kissed you back and rewarded you financially, emotionally, mentally, socially, in whichever way? I want you to unmute your line, raise your hand, and jump in and share. And please don't be shy, because this is something that is just really, really important for us to do, not just for us in acknowledging this, but in also being able to provide assurance to others that it's important for us to look in this space. Because what we need to do after this call, my invitation to you is not just to share today, but after the call, I want you to take some time out to identify at least 5 different things, 5 different ways that your business has kissed you back. Evidence of things that you've done well that shows that if you've done it before, you can do it again. What are some pictures that you're going to hang in your mind that can show you that you've done it and that you can keep on doing it? So with that being said, I want to unmute your lines, pop in one at a time, jump in, and please share with us what are some ways that your business has given you something in return. Barbara, it looks like you've unmuted your line.
I have. This is going to be a product story, but I keep thinking back to it, knowing that I can do it again. But I was asked by a lady to see if I could help her husband, who was facing a fairly large amputation. And he was in excruciating discomfort. And so I went and I put one of our wraps just over top of his bandage. And we sat there and we were talking. And they relayed to me about their son, who was ADD, ADHD, and autistic, and hadn't slept the night through for 12 years. And I asked if he was home, could I have a chat with him? And they brought him out. And we could carry on a conversation. He could fully make himself understood. And I asked him if he would try an experiment with me. Now, this young lad used to sleep on top of his bed, no sheet blanket at any time of the year, window open, even in our minus Celsius temperatures, and 3 fans blowing on him. So he had a heat challenge. I put a sleep system on his bed. And I made him pinky promise with me that he would not throw the comforter off. He had to keep all the components together and give it a try. And I asked his mom, because she checked on him repeatedly. He used to have a Dutch door, and they had to lock it from their side of his bedroom so that he wouldn't escape at night and take off down their street. So he was very disruptive to the whole family's way of living. She said that he didn't used to settle until 2 or 3 in the morning. That particular night, he settled by 10:30. He slept the whole night through, and she checked on him several times, and he kept the comforter on. When she awakened him at 7 the next morning to go to school, he awakened cheerful and eager to go to school. Now, his school teacher had told his mother that he'd never be able to live an independent life or manage his own finances because, in spite of extra tutoring, he couldn't grasp numbers. A few weeks later, he had a midterm math exam. He got 88%. He won an award. That summer, he held 2 part-time jobs. The following year, he continued to go to school and work part-time jobs. All his grades came up. And now that young man is talking about going to college, and he's handling his own finances. So that one change not only changed his life, It changed the entire family dynamic, and he has hope for the future just because of the sleep system.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question then, Barbara. So when you look at that experience, which is an incredible transformative experience for him, what does that teach you about you and your Niken business?
Anything is possible. I didn't give them any guarantees. I just offered to try something to see if it would make a difference to their well-being collectively. And they all agreed to enter into this experiment, so to speak, with me. And everybody benefited. Well, because of what happened with him, they talked about his well-being.
Yeah.
They shared about his well-being. So it went far beyond what the original anticipation was just to help this young lad get some sleep, and the family too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fantastic. It shows, to me, what I like about this, first of all, the story itself, the product story itself is profound in its impact. But the great reassurance message of this is the encouragement that it gives for us to keep opening our mouths and sharing the message, doesn't it?
And it gave him hope for a very different future.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Barbara. So, anyone else? What are some ways that your business has given you evidence that you can do this? What are some success stories that you've had? Little ones, big ones, whichever you choose to share.
I have something to share. There's been a lot of transitioning to online marketing in not just Niken, but our culture as a whole.
Yeah.
And computers scare me. That's me being vulnerable. I have a really tough time with technology and not knowing. I have a tough time with not knowing how to do something. That's probably the more core issue. And so seeing all these other people really excelling and getting their business out there and their products out there and feeling like I was kind of being left in the wake. It occurred to me this last year as we were doing the Team Kaizen run, and I was consistently on the leaderboard. And I thought, well, I don't really have any online marketing out there.
Yeah.
And it occurred to me that there's more than one way to do the business. Again, that's occurred to me before, but I've really enjoyed and feel very confident in building relationships with people personally. I really enjoy that aspect of building any kind of business.
Yeah.
And I go through now and look at my my contacts or my Facebook friends or notes, thank you notes that I've received. And that's big payment for me, is seeing the rich relationships that have developed, and many of them through the vehicle of Niken.
Yeah.
So that's a huge aha and atta girl that I need to remind myself of, even when I'm not out there on top SEO.
Yeah.
So.
I really love that one, Molly. And I think it's an important lesson for all of us that we align our own strategies with our own personal strengths as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about duplication, we're talking about duplicating the correct principles. Yeah. And the correct activities and behaviors. But there are lots of different methodologies for how we can apply that and get the duplicating results. We don't need to duplicate personalities. We don't need to duplicate other people's methodologies. What we do need to do is duplicate the activity, which is always around talking to people, reaching out, connecting, building relationships in whichever form, online or offline. Really doesn't matter.
And if I can do a quick little shout out, Kayleen is one of my longest term and fondest relationships. She's on this call. I know she can hear me.
Yeah.
But she is just a few steps away from silver after 20 years together in Niken. So I'm so thrilled for her and just want to give her a little push and a little hurrah. She's
Yeah.
amazing friend, and doing amazing things in Nikan too.
That's good. And I think that's one of the best pictures to hang on our wall, so to speak, using Whistler's comments, is the relationships that we get to develop and nurture in Nikan. For me, that's the biggest return that I get from this, is the friendships that I have with each of you, the relationships, the ties, the connections. It's fantastic. That's the best return that I've had in my business, which is great. Okay, anyone else?
We were at the diamond thing, and I think Luis Kasuga said it really well. He said he had different offers. He's a pretty smart guy, but he said he loves the emotional salary that Nikan gives. And just kind of talking about all of this stuff, Valerie and I had the opportunity to go visit our daughter and her family in Kalispell, and that's a little bit of a road trip. And excuse me. And about halfway there, along the river, there's this some volcanic activity and a beautiful hot springs spa where you can stop and get in these pools of heated mineral water, and really neat. And so we're in there just kind of relaxing, and there's a couple next to us, and we just struck up conversation. Very nice people. They're health nuts, but also discovered that he was involved in a car wreck a couple of years ago and hurts. And so we just, after a while, he says, well, what do you do? And I always carry my calling card with me. And I always start the conversation with this, that we work with a company that's bringing to market some amazing technology that was developed in Japan, and it helps people feel better. And it's, what a huge market. The Costco magazine had some statistics that was kind of devoted to pain. And of course, we can't do anything with pain, but we can help a lot of people with discomfort. But it actually says that half of the population has pain. So we get talking, got their contact information, and this person he was overhearing the conversation, and he says, well, tell me about it. And he mentioned that he got in a really bad accident of construction. And long story short is he was just coming off of just 7 years of Percocet addiction that was prescribed to him because of the pain that he had. And so he's very interested in what we have. And then another guy came up and says, hey, I got this problem. Do you think you could help me? And so anyway, we walked out with 3 new friends and some good contact information. The next day we went skiing with our grandkids, and we're up there. And my son-in-law, he had another buddy up there that we were skiing for a couple of hours. And this guy, super successful, owns a hotel, a bunch of other stuff, and all of his stuff. And so I got his contact information too. So we came home with 4 really good leads. And so there's just people everywhere. There's millions, infinite number of referrals for practical intents and purposes. More people out there than we can imagine, and they all need what we have. So it's kind of exciting, an immeasurable market.
Yeah, let me ask you a question, Dave, because you've been in this business, I guess, longer than everyone else, because since you're at the top of the tree, yeah? You're the father of Nikan here. But you've obviously got lots of pictures hanging on your wall in your memory of all the good things that Nikan has done for you, all of the examples that show you, I can do this, I can do this. One thing that impresses me is you're in Team Taishi this year. You're out there doing it more than anyone else. After all these years, you're doing the fundamentals time after time, week after week, just like you just shared. But what is it that prompts you? What are some things that makes you just feel so comfortable to open your mouth and talk and share the way you do? Because you share, you get results, you bring people in, you get the customers, you get the business partners, and you're consistent at that. So you've obviously got a lot of pictures hanging on your wall that give you the prompt, to keep doing this. So what's some of the big prompts for you?
Well, one of the things I think is just doing it again and again and again. I've created my own reality, and my belief is so strong. I believe that people around me get pulled into my reality. They get sucked right into it. And John Maxwell, he said it really well. He said that confidence is charisma. I like that idea right there. That if you have total confidence, that actually is charisma, and people want to be around that. They're looking for that, and you just kind of think, wow, here's the reality. This stuff really does work consistently, and all we have to do is kind of fundamentally this idea that people do business with people that they like, that they know, that they trust, and people that really they can tell they have their interests in their heart. And so it's just loving people, and then just getting out and having conversations, realizing that you're thinking, oh, I got to pounce on this person, I'm, wait, and all this kind of, but just be relaxed and have fun with it, and be confident, and just have it in the conversation rather than going out and stalking people and bugging them. Make everything that you do a pleasant experience, and it just and it's fun, just real fun. Just have a goal to make as many friends as you can. Go to lunch with somebody at least once a month that's really, really sharp. And then promise yourself, I'm not going to even talk about me, Ken. I'm just going to be interested in them, and see what happens. It's just really fun going out and seeing people. That's what I love about this business is this is something that is just so foundational, like what Luis Kasuga said, emotional salary. That's what really matters, is who we love and who loves us, and the real wealth is just how many relationships we have and how deep they are.
Yeah, I want to touch on that. You've shared a couple of points, and I can see that there are others that have unmuted their lines. And Madeline, I muted your line again because there was just a little bit of background noise coming from you. So please be mindful of that and unmute when you're ready to share. But Dave said some important things here. Is through his consistent activity, he created his own reality, and he drew people into it. I think that's a profound point. And the critical thing is, whether we've been in the business for many years or just a little bit, as I mentioned in the newsletter, start small. It seems paradoxical to set goals, to have these big aspirations, and then to make a commitment to take little steps. But it's the repetition of the little steps that will go a long way. If you've had one experience, like Barbara shared before, set a goal just to have another one. Find a new customer and help them have a good experience. Rather than saying, I'm going to be a platinum by the end of the year, set the goal to be, I'm going to make a phone call in the next 30 minutes. See the difference of that? You've got total control over what you do in the next 30 minutes. And I love this principle of the emotional check, the emotional salary that we get from this. This isn't an excuse or a deference of I've missed the mark and therefore this will do. Like the village fool that shoots the arrows and then paints the bullseye around it. Yeah, that's not what we're talking about here. You will find many, many billion-dollar and multi-million-dollar companies that for many years don't make profit until they're really established and strong. Look at Facebook, for example. People were wondering, how is Facebook going to make any money? Do you remember when it came out and people were thinking that? What are they going to do? They're essentially running as a non-profit. They're not, they've got all this service that they provide to the world and they're not charging for anything. How are they making any money? But look at them now. Yeah. And look at Elon Musk. At what point do these guys start to make great money? But what they do first is they recognize the emotional salary that they're getting because they love what they do. They love why they do it. And that emotion really drives us to the next stage, because in business, we have to rely in many instances on delayed gratification. Yeah, that's a fundamental part of it. But when that gratification comes, it comes in greater abundance. Yeah. I don't know any billionaires that did that through a 9-to-5 job. Yeah. They can work and get paid that week. It's not going to make them billionaires. Yeah. There's different returns when you're a business owner to when you're an employee. And we need to think differently in that way. And this is one of these fundamental points that helps us get into the mindset of business ownership. It's getting connected again, like the artist, to fall in love with why we're doing this, looking for the evidence to keep us moving forwards, and to look in the right direction at the right times. So anyone else got anything they want to share before we conclude?
Hey, could I just share one little thing here? The sizzle calls, they really do work. And we had a lady talk about what Clarity did for her son. And I just got a text, and this lady said, I just want to say thank you. I put my grandson on Clarity, and I'm just blown away by the difference in him. All my family quit speaking to me because I wouldn't put him on medication. Now with Clarity, he is focused and strives to improve his behavior, not just during school, but throughout the day. What a blessing. If you speak to Rochelle, please thank her for me for sharing.
Wow.
A little bit of a psychological paycheck there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, well, if we don't have anyone else that wants to share, let's conclude the call today with this very clear and specific call to action. Before you do anything else, as we get to the end of this call, I want you to take a few minutes and write it down. Don't just think about it. I want you to write it down. What are 5 ways that Nikan has given me evidence that I can do this? What are 5 results that I can already see in my business from things that have gone before that reinforce I can do it again? I want you to think of 5 things, write them down, and if you choose, share a couple of them on some of the WhatsApp groups. I think it's good to share these things, get the word out, or even share them with your upline, your downline. Get the message shared, post it on Facebook even, yeah? Have a moment where you can share it online and let the world know, I've done this before, I can do it again. Reinforce that belief, because when we've got that entrenched, that confidence, as Dave says, turns to charisma. And when we've got the charisma, people just want to be around us. And we can, as again, to quote Dave, create our own realities and draw people into it and create something that is remarkable. And with the validation of the products, the efficacy of the opportunity, we can just have that cascade out in ways that we can't even imagine. And we can get these messages like Barbara's shared, like Molly has shared, like Dave has shared today, with people coming back, giving us the evidence themselves that their lives have been touched for good because of what you have done, because of the difference that you have made, because you decided to open your mouth and share the message. So thank you very much. Glad you've been with us today. I hope this has been helpful. And again, keep those little masterpieces and hang them on the walls of your mind. Remind yourself and look to your strengths. Let your strengths counsel you much more than your weaknesses, and you'll have a better result as a consequence. Thank you very much and have a great week. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.